Okay, thank you.
All done.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the council meeting for the Borough of Crafton, Monday, July 27th, 2020. Call to order. Proceed to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Ayla,
Here.
Mr. Amendola, Mr. Kraus.
Here.
Mr. Crown,
Here.
Mr. Lavassa,
Here.
Ms. Perry,
Here.
Mr. Saba,
Here.
Mayor Bloom.
Here.
6 are present. You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Moving forward to the approval of the bill list dated July 27th, 2020.
So moved. Seconded. Second.
Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Approval of the minutes. I mean, of the bills list. Moving forward to approval of the minutes for July 13th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All that opposed? All right. Approval of the minutes, and the wind's picking up outside, everybody. All right. Citizen comments. Please note that all public comments will be had at the beginning of the meeting due to the online meeting format. At this time, citizens may address the Borough Council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record. And do note this is for Borough Crafton residents and taxpayers. All righty. Do we have anybody in the room?
All right. So anybody that would like to speak, there is a function on your device that will permit you to raise your hand. If you could please raise your digital hand if you would like to speak, and I will call you in the order that I see the hand raised. Mr. President, it looks like Cody Sheets has raised his hand. I will unmute him. Cody
Okay.
Sheets is unmuted. Please state your name and your address.
You have 3 minutes for the record. Thank you.
He's still muted for some reason. He should be unmuted now.
Thank you. Cody Sheets, 152 Promenade Street. I think that the fact that, let me restart. I think that what I say here is not going to matter. And I think that pretty much what every other citizen says probably isn't going to matter either, because everything that's on this agenda is going to get voted on in the affirmative tonight, because you guys already know that you guys have the votes in the affirmative. And I think that the fact that you guys are going to decline to retain an officer with an impeccable record who apprehended a murder suspect at the Pittsburgh Motel just a few weeks ago, who has known this area for years, who worked for our local magistrate, who worked in Ingram, and then you're going to create a position that has never existed inside this community and give it to a guy who's taken a pay cut of $49,000 for personal reasons is laughable. And I think that the fact that you're going to take an officer out of commission in a public social attitude of civil unrest, and the fact that there was a drug bust on Chartiers Avenue, months ago, is just totally negligent on all of your parts. I think that most of you have just fallen into dull indifference. And I think that most of you are just a sinking ship of fools at this point, and you're throwing this borough into the garbage. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. All right.
Alice
Anybody else?
Glasser has her hand raised. I would submit her. Alice, can you hear us? Still has her muted right now. I'm trying to unmute. There, she's unmuted now.
Thank you. My name is Alice Glosser. I'm a resident at 10 Belvedere Street here in Crafton. Would like to support the gentleman that was just speaking. I back up his same words. I think it is absolutely ridiculous that when we had voted previously, only 6 months ago, that we were in need of having another policeman in our community for a support. And now we are all of a sudden going to decide we don't need it. We are going to hire a person as an assistant borough manager where there is absolutely, positively no need when we have two very capable women in the office who are able to handle anything at all that I'm certain our borough manager would issue to them. Thank you very much. I am so sorry to see a council take on a stand as this when we are in need of it in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Ed, anybody else? Jason Michael raised his hand.
I will. There we go. He is permitted to talk. Go ahead, Jason, please. Name and where you reside, Jason. You should be able to speak.
Hello, my name is Jason Michael of Walnut Street. First and foremost, I just wanted to speak out in opposition of the motion on the agenda this evening to terminate Officer Pasqualino. I feel that Crafton has an exemplary workforce, or police force rather. Crafton is a wonderful community, it always has been, and one of the many reasons for that is the low crime rate due to the wonderful job done by the borough's police officers. I'm not sure if this motion is budget related or not, and I understand that specifics related to personnel issues cannot be discussed with the public for confidentiality reasons. However, are you able to disclose whether or not this decision is really being driven by budget concerns, or is it really being motivated by the current political climate in the country? If it truly is budget related, why did council vote to add this position last year? Surely there are other corners that could be cut that don't involve risks to public safety. It's really disheartening to me that we would take a hit on public safety and strip an outstanding officer of his livelihood, whether it's for the sake of saving a few dollars or if there are political intentions behind it. Like I said, I understand that, for confidentiality reasons, you really can't go into that much detail, but are you able to shed any light at all as to why this motion is on the table?
When we get to the motion, we will be able to address your concerns. Thank you.
Okay, and I did have another question. Secondly, and this might be another case where we need to wait until we get to the motion. I'd like to know if anybody would be able to share what the roles and responsibilities of the assistant borough manager are going to be versus those of the current borough manager. And I was also wondering if this position was posted publicly for any qualified candidates to bid on. I'm really not trying to imply anything or accuse anybody of everything, but it just seems like it was a rather quick turnaround from a couple weeks ago when Director Kazarowski was let go. And now all of a sudden this assistant borough manager position appears out of the woodwork. It also just seems coincidental to me that this assistant manager resigned from his previous position and, is coming from the same township where our solicitor is the commission president. Any information that could be shared with the public on this matter would be greatly appreciated. And again, I understand you really can't say anything until the motion is brought up. So,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you, Jason.
Sure.
Anybody else that would like to speak, please use the raise your hand function. All right. Mr. President, no one has their hands raised at this time.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for speaking this evening. I'm going to move forward with the acknowledgement of the receipt of written reports for June 2020. We have the Treasurer's Report, the Financial Report, the Act 511 and Trash Collection Reports, the Property Tax Collection Report, the Police Report, the Engineer Report, the EMS Report, Code Enforcement Report, Building Inspection Report, Public Works Report, and the Manager's Report. Anybody have any questions or comments on the reports aforementioned? All right, hearing none, move to the President's Report. I just wanted to let everybody know that the Borough of Crafton.
Excuse me, Philip.
Yes.
On the list of reports, I think there might be one or two missing from our folder that was listed here. I'm sorry to be so pedantic.
Oh, that's all right.
Treasure, financial, Act 50. Oh, Act 51, trash. I'm sorry, I think we have them. I forget that the Act 51 trash and property are all combined. I think we have. All right, sorry for the interruption.
That's all right. All right. I'm just gonna touch base, Colette, on the meeting that we went to with Carnegie, Roslyn Farms, its school district, Carleton, that is, and Crafton. A few council members last Thursday evening met up with Carnegie Borough and the other municipalities are part of the Carleton School District. We understand that there's a lot of concerns about the upcoming school year. We've been assured by the school district superintendent and the school board president that their health and safety plan is going to be put in effect to ensure that the safety of the teachers and the students. From my understand, the first month at least is going to be digital, and then they're going to try to make a transition. But again, it's all based off of the data that's coming in from the Allegheny County Health Department and from the State Health Department. So we appreciate everybody working with the district, making their concerns known. Your elected officials throughout the 3 municipalities are staying in tune with the district and making sure that we're going to try to make the best of a terrible situation. It really is a crisis. On behalf of all the parents and the families in the community, we understand that economically the time is very trying, and in addition of having the children at home during this time is again very challenging, and the summer has been very, very warm, and so we understand there's a lot of challenges. Many of us have children at home right now, so I just wanted to let everybody know we are working with the school district. They are trying their best. They're working with our state Senator William Fontana and our state representatives. They were both on the phone, Anita Kulik and Dan Deasy, who both represent our district, are paying attention, and they're taking the situation very seriously. And hopefully there will be more aid that will come from the state and the federal government to help with the pending crisis that is been facilitated by the pandemic. So I just, again, please use common sense, listen to the county health department, and we all try to get through this together. Again, it's just a very challenging environment. Colette, would you like to add anything to this?
There was just one detail that I think is important to bring up. As you mentioned, the current plan is for the school district to be virtual, digital, with students being at home. But what the school board is going to be doing is the teachers will be going in, and they will, so what they're trying to do is to begin to get a sense of if the teachers are in the building and they're following the safety rules, what is that going to look like? Is there any spread and that sort of thing? So it's not, so there is a transition plan that they're working on to help assess the relative safety.
Yes.
If I could ask a question, since I wasn't on the call, and are they planning at all to bring kids back from virtual learning, or did they address that?
Yeah, they are definitely looking at plans for hybrid and various different plans on how to cycle the children back in. They've talked about all the things that they're doing. They have ordered and are installing shields, I think, on a lot of the desks and for the teachers. They're looking at how to do like one-way hallways and various things like that. It was really clear that they've spent a lot of time given the general ideas that are out there and trying to figure out how to get a fit. And then there were some of us that kind of urged looking even further outside of the box. But those are things that would take time. So anyway, yes, they are hoping to do that and to be able, if they're successful in the first 4 week sprint with the teachers in the building, there are definitely, they will have plans for how they're going to start to bring the children back.
Thank you, Kalila.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, everybody that attended that meeting. All right, I'm gonna move forward with the mayor's report.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'd just like to touch on an item, a letter that was received by the chief from Brandon Rowland, District Chief of Operations for Northwest EMFs. I'm going to read the letter to you, and I made some corrections to it as I went along to fill in the names. Chief Sumter, this message was received from one of our lieutenants, and I wanted to make you both aware. Hi, Chief. I wanted to write this email to give kudos where kudos are due for the Crafton PD. On 7/11/2020, at 18:22 hours, which is 6:22 in the evening, we were dispatched to a 29-year-old male with unknown issues. The patient had punched through glass and had severe wound and arterial bleed to his right arm in the antecubital fossa region. Prior to our arrival, Sergeant Timothy Harbison from the Crafton Police Department immediately recognized this life-threatening bleed and correctly applied a tourniquet high and tight on the patient's right arm. We transported this patient to UPMC with a level 1 trauma alert in place in a stable yet serious condition. We were on the scene within 5 minutes and 50 seconds of this call. However, not for the quick thinking and decisiveness of Sergeant Harbison to control the bleeding, who knows the amount of blood this patient would have lost in the condition he had been in. Please let Crafton Police know the excellent actions that officer performed in the line of duty were totally awesome. This is signed by Chief Brandon Rowland, District Chief of Operations for Northwest EMS. And this copy of this letter has been placed in Sergeant Harbison's file.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, I'm gonna move forward to the engineer's report.
Mr. President, I don't believe the engineer is in attendance.
He's coming.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Solicitor's report.
Nothing to report this evening, Mr. President.
Manager's report.
It'll be rather brief because most of my comments will be on most of the motions that are coming forward a little bit later. I did want to announce that the projects that have been approved already have begun. The 220 road program, starting with ADA ramps first and then paving thereafter, has begun. The South Grandview Sewer Separation Project has begun. And the Green Light Go project has begun. The bases are being put in now throughout the borough. Regrettably, the poles have still not arrived, but once they do, they'll be ready to be put up and activated, and we hope that's soon, considering the conditions of the poles that we have in place right now. A little bit later, there'll be a motion to accept a bid for the pole liner. If that goes through as the motion states, that work will begin actually this week. That contractor wants to begin ASAP if the award is given. And actually, that's really about all I have. Except one other thing, we had numerous residents down in the McCormick, Crafton Boulevard area complain of a sewer smell, severe. That problem was discovered by our Public Works. It was a vandalized and missing manhole in a 60-inch major sewer line, Alka-San line. So obviously you could see or understand how a strong sewer smell would come out of that. It has been corrected, it appears, and that good work by the Public Works Department to find the problem. That's all I have.
Great job. Thank you. All right, I'm going to move forward with the business.
Mr. President,
Yep.
I believe Mr. Amendola might be on the line. If you would give me a moment to try to see if this is him. Permit me a moment. Fred, do we have you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was muted this whole time.
Can we make him a panelist?
Unfortunately, because he's a call-in, we can't move him into the panelist.
Oh.
Well, listen, I'll make this real simple. I'll just say a couple of things, and then you can go on with
point
your
of
meeting,
order.
okay? Hello?
We haven't gone to the business agenda, Mr. Amendola.
I just have a 30-second statement, and then I'll be quiet, and you can
This
go
is out
on
of
with the
order.
meeting.
Mr. President, this is out of order.
I just have a 30-second statement. This is censorship is what it is. You're
We're not to, I think, where you want to make your statement, because we haven't gotten to the point in the agenda where you're trying to speak to, I think.
Mr. President, per my standard operating, I will keep everyone mute except for yourself until we get to the discussion section of each agenda item.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm going to move forward to motion to accept the low bid for the Crafton pool liner contract of $75,000 for the base bid and $8,000 for the add alternate lining of the splash pool from Andy's Pool Shop Incorporated, as recommended by Gateway Engineers.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any questions?
Just one real quick question. Mr. Manager, if you can clarify, so this is a part of the grant that we were awarded?
That is correct. Yes.
So majority of the funds will come from that grant?
Actually, yes, 80% will come from that grant. There's a separate grant, the next grant, one addressed parks, and this one addressed the pool. So yes.
Awesome, and thank you for all the hard work you put into this.
All right, thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose?
Aye.
All right,
No.
So Fred is against the pool liner?
Okay.
Or is he
Right.
just late? Okay,
Okay.
just checking.
All right, let's go. Okay, motion passes. Motion to accept the low bid for the Krafenboro 2020 park improvement contract of $283,255 for the base bid, $7,500 for alternate bid 1, $2,500 for alternate bid 2, and $6,200 for alternate bid 3 from Sports and Recreation Associates LLC, as recommended by Gateway Engineers.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes, could we get this unpacked a little bit so we understand how much of this is going to be covered by grants and how much is going to be the borough's responsibility? Ultimately, I think there's a lot of confusion on all of these motions, and I would like to ask that, well, since the engineer isn't here, if the manager can guide us through that and put it on the record.
If I may also add in there to ask the manager to kind of briefly describe what each is being done with the base bid, the initial, or the alternate bid 1, alternate bid 2, as well as alternate bid 3.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find a description I sent you all on Friday. And I think it's sitting on my desk because I wasn't expecting to have to address this part, but I'll give it my best shot.
If you can't, I'll
No, that's okay. I can give it a whirl.
Okay.
The base bid is for new surfaces at all 3 parks and a total revamp of the main park, including ADA ramps, getting rid of precipices that you could fall over, and a lot of different things down at the main park. And then again, two new surfaces at Linden and Noble. So that incorporates the majority of the bid at $283,255. The add-ons or alternate bids, which we could accept or not accept, but the base bid came in well below estimated cost. They're for more mundane things like park benches, trees, and one other minor item that you could live without or live with, depending on how the other price came in. So really minor in lieu of the base bid, the most important one. That pretty much sums up how that works. It is an 80-20 match from the original grant that we received. And I hope that it explains some of it anyway.
Right. So the grant amount, so to try and get an understanding, because as you've pointed out in the correspondence in the files that you've sent us, is that we've looked at some of these other things because the bid was lower and the amount that's been granted. Do you recall what the grant amount is? I'm sorry.
No need to apologize. Without having the files in front of me, the total grant, I believe, was $380,000.
I think you're right. I think it's very close to that. So
that
basically,
would mean $80,000 we would have to come up with to match against the 380.
okay.
As you can see, these two added up, motion 1 and motion 2, come only to around $300,000.
Right.
Including the add-ons.
Right. So basically, we're talking maybe 60,000 if all of this fits in the grant.
Yeah, I got your point. Yes.
Okay. And that money, we have no problem. We were planning because we got these grants last year. We knew that we were going to have to put this money down to make these improvements. They're going to come out of, am I wrong, the general fund, or was there a special fund that this will be coming out of?
There was a matching fund within the capital improvement fund that was budgeted for this, yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get that all on the record because there's a lot of confusion about all of this and how much money is actually coming from grants. So thank you.
I understand.
Yeah. Right, and for clarification, this is going to allow us to do more with our part of our share because initially the renovation of the pool house wasn't part of the scope, but Russ is working with the county to allow that so we can meet our match. So we're getting a lot of value, and they anticipate beginning work this week. And the managers had some preliminary discussions with stakeholders in the community about the pool house and about the liners, and that's how it got to the agenda. So thank you, Member.
So, Mr. President, so basically this is a much needed investment in our parks and playgrounds within the borough.
Correct. And last year, the administration applied for the grants. We received the grants. We had help from our state senator and state representative. So it was a team effort all the way around to get the money in the door. And the fact that the bids have come in lower than projected, that's even better for us, that because now we have some flexibility to hopefully get some of the other things that were on that wish list accomplished. And again, that's what the manager is working with the county to do. Because I don't think they want us to turn the rest of the money back to them. I think they would rather us make more
Did that
improvements.
before I was on council, and it was a sad day.
Right, correct.
I have a question, not to interrupt you, but if, last year I remember we talked a lot about changing a little bit of the dimensions of the main play area at Crafton Park when the new floor, the new safety surface comes in, to keep little ones from running into Afton or running off to one of the pavilions while someone's having a graduation party. Is that something that can be considered as part of this grant, or is that outside the scope of it, or is that included with leveling off? I'm asking the manager.
Yeah, go ahead.
A quick answer to your question, Mr. Kraus, is yes, very much so. The layout is changed exponentially. A lot of the hazards that are there now, and they are hazards, will be corrected. And quite simply, yes.
And does that also include, I know that we had talked about maybe, at least I had brought it up, I don't know where we actually landed on it as a body, but planting some trees for kind of the back area there that kind of touches the hillside coming off of my street. Just because there tends to be, sometimes kids trying to get up there or coming down there, that kind of thing, to try to just keep it as an off limits area since it's not part of the park, and kind of don't want climbing up the hill.
No, not to my knowledge. It would be outside the scope of this grant.
Okay, no problem. Just asking. Thank you.
Is Fred? I think Fred might be trying to say something. I've seen his yellow. I guess not. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, I'm here. I can hear you. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, but I was seeing a yellow around your box, so I thought you might be trying to say something and wanted to
I'm on a phone. I can't see anyone. All I can do is hear you.
Okay. All right. I was just wanting to make sure if you were trying to say something.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. All right. So, without any other comment, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose? All right.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
I did hear it.
Okay. Thank you. So, just note, previous motion and this motion, Mr. Amendola is in the no. Just okay. All right. Thank you very much. Moving forward, motion to adopt resolution 2020-10 to commit Kraftenboro to a budget allocation of $660,000 for its 20% match share of a GROW grant received from Alka-San for the Kraftenboro storm sewer separation project.
Mr. President, just one clarification. That's 15%, not 20.
Right. I was going to say this is what I was talking about earlier when we chatted. So this is for the Crafton Boulevard project, correct?
There's one for the Crafton Boulevard project, sorry, and one for the Woodlawn and Fountain project. They're separate resolutions.
Right.
So
Okay.
moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Well,
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry. I was muted. I do have questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right.
So again, I want to get this unpacked, the total amount of the grant, so we have it on the record. And I also have questions about where this money is coming from. We knew this day was going to come when we accepted the grant. And there was discussion, if I recall correctly, that there was going to be another application that might allow more money to come in for this project. So could we have a fuller discussion about this before we move to a vote?
Yeah, I'll unpack it. So The engineer and Alka-San said we need to administratively complete what we currently have on the table, and your assertion is correct. We are reapplying for the Crafton Boulevard project because we augmented it and increased the size of the project. But the grant that we received last year requires us to accept it and demonstrate that we're going to commit the funds on our side of the project. So in this regards for the Crafton Boulevard project, and correct me if I'm wrong, Russ, this is what I was mentioning earlier in the day, that's 15% for the Crafton Boulevard project.
It's 15% for both and any of the road grants.
Right.
Right, but the dollar amounts are what we'll be committing to. Is that correct?
Correct, and let's further unpack that. That's why a meeting or two ago we had that discussion about the bridge loan, because these are large projects. Both of these projects take you above, $5 million for both projects. We're going to have a line of credit to cover our projects and then get reimbursed through the program. And then again, it's a phased reimbursement, so we'll be able to repay our creditor. And then in the end, what we'll have are these amounts that can be paid out of our sewer fund, or we can, do what we've done in the past, such as in 2005, 2006, where we had a Penvest loan, or we could use a USDA loan to keep them on the books and pay for them out of the revenues seen through the sewer fund.
Okay, so let me ask a few more questions. Timeline, this project, we would be looking to deal with where we're really talking about north of $1 million. And I know we have community members who are saying, where is this money coming from? How much are our taxes going to go up? And before we move on these, I think we owe it to the community to say what our plan is. I know we have options, but I mean, especially right now when people are unemployed, we don't even know how many people are unemployed. We don't know how many people are going to be having trouble continuing to pay their rent or their mortgages. And so tax increases are a real concern right now. And I just want it out on the table about what we think this is going to do.
Yes.
Mr.
I'm
President, I actually have a
confused. Is there
question.
any discussion about actually raising taxes though? Because that seems
No,
to
this is
be not part of.
This is a legitimate.
Hold on. Let me answer the question, because I'm the subject matter expert on this. I've been working on it for over 4.5 years.
You are.
Coletta. So these loans are going to be paid out of revenues generated by our sewer fund. It's not part of your mills. Every month you pay your sewer bill, and we pay Alka-San quarterly, and we pay ourselves. We have equipment that we have, such as a street sweeper, that gets paid for out of our sewer fund. So these revenue streams are spoken for projects such as these. And this is the intent of the sewer fund. It's not to have, $2 million, $3 million in an account earning interest. If that's the case, then we should lower everybody's rates, or we put the money to work. And we know we have to put the money to work because we have consent orders that are on the horizon. And this is actually probably one of the best times for us to get the work done, because there is an economic contraction, and we are poised out of all the other communities out there. We actually have our projects teed up and ready to go, and grants ready. And so our long-term obligation isn't going to be $7 million, as Coletta, you mentioned, $1 million. And that $1 million is easily paid for out of the sewer fund. If we had to write a check today to pay for the current debt that is on the books, we could do that. If we had to pay for these projects out of this current sewer fund and leave the other loans on the books, we could pay for these projects what our match. But if we did not have the match, these $5, $7, $10 million projects would be far outside of our reach, and we would not be able to do the project.
So,
Short,
Mr.
straight through line is that this, approving these two will move these grants forward, will get us $5 or $6 million worth of work that needs to be done.
Correct.
And there is nothing on the horizon that would cause a tax increase, because we will be able to handle this out of the current revenue stream over a reasonable amount of time. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. That's been the intent the entire time with the sewer.
Thank
sewer
you.
projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, so
Yes.
2 questions. So my understanding is, so we actually have, separate from our general fund, you know, we have other funds that are set up that we pay for as residents that include the sewer fund as well as the road fund. And it's my understanding that the sewer fund can only be used for sewer projects. And then on a separate question, so you had mentioned that there's going to be an order coming down from the EPA and DEP that these projects need to get done. What would it look like if we're not taking advantage of this GROW grant from Alka-San? What would that look like in regards to our fund as a borough and potentially being able to meet our legal obligations from the federal and state government?
So
Complete
if by
sewer projects.
if by 2025 we don't have our fair share of the work done, we're going to have to max out our credit to get the projects done, unless something comes down from the federal or state government where we get massive grants. And then again, these are the massive grants that we're supposed to be taking advantage of. So you're gonna have to use your debt ceiling to accomplish what the DOJ, the Department of Justice, the EPA, the DEP are going to require of us as a customer in the Alka-San system. And again, we're all in this together. This is not just Crafton. This is everybody.
So
That's
Mr. President, it's, so essentially, if we were to not take advantage of these grants that are available from Alka-San, we would be setting the borough up for potentially a larger financial obligation that would make it very hard to determine where to find those funds to cover
Correct.
a larger
So
project versus taking advantage of essentially grant money.
right.
that's
So
coming in.
doing this now is going to free us up to do the things that we want to invest in the future, whether that be the borough building, pools, more park improvements, staffing, whatever it may be that we want to do as a community. You know, this is actually freeing us up down the road to take advantage of these funds. And Alka-San encouraged us 4 years ago at Alon to get in there and get ahead of the curve before the 85 some million dollar pot of money dried up. And we did a great job as a community and went after that. It's been a bipartisan issue. We've had support from multiple councils to get us to where we are today. So that's where we are. And to you, the taxpayer, you're paying for this out of your sewer fund. Every flush you take funds this. All right. And it's our responsibility to buy the pipes now, you know, with a 85% to 80% match from Alka-San. So again, I hope I addressed everybody's questions.
And just, thank you. And just to underscore, if I remember correctly, from last year, Crafton was the municipality that actually got the most grants of any of the municipalities. There was it the water authority got more, but we were able to secure more grant money than any other municipality.
Yes, that is correct. Yep. We you know, Coletta, when we got on, we heard what Alka-San said to us, and we went after those funds, and that's why we are here today. And the engineer and management have helped us get there. So we appreciate everybody, past and present, to get us to where we are.
Thank you.
So do we have a motion on the table still?
So do we need to revote since
So,
it's back to discussion?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All that oppose?
No.
Thank you. Motion passes. Motion to adopt resolution 2020-11 to commit Kraftenboro to a budget allocation of $400,000 for its, again, Russ, this is a 15% match, right?
It's the exact same scenario as the previous motion. That's correct.
And you'll update the official record here. Share of a GROW grant received from Alka-San for the Woodlawn and Fountain Street Sewer Separation Project.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, same issue, same, again, I don't think we have to repeat the conversation. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose?
No.
There we go. Motion passes. Motion to accept the low and only bid from Fire Force Incorporated of Butler, PA of $151,035.50 for the MAS G1 SCBA and related equipment as recommended by the fire chief.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Mike, Fire Chief Crown, you there?
Yeah.
Councilman? All right. We had a great presentation. Thanks for inviting council to this. Do you have any comments before we vote?
No, I just want to make sure everybody knows back in 2014, council at that time started to put money away, $22,000 a year, so that we all knew that this day would be coming. So they put the money away and through their due diligence, most of that's going to be covered with money that's in the bank in a sinking fund right now.
All right.
And
Can we just
Councilman Crown,
remove, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
if you could just clarify for everybody what SCBA, like what exactly this is, what this equipment is.
So SCBA is self-contained breathing apparatus. These are the harnesses that the firefighters wear to go into the fires, protect them from the smoke and the carcinogens within fires. Oftentimes you see them related to TV. They have a bottle, a cylinder type on their back. And instead of MAS, it's MSA, Mine Safety Appliances. Every so many years, the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Institute, redoes their recommendations and guidelines for breathing apparatus. Currently, the DOT also has restrictions on bottles, the cylinders, breathing in air cylinders, and those cylinders only last a maximum of 15 years. You have to have them recertified every 5 years. So we've gone through that 15-year cycle with those breathing apparatus. The NFPA also says if it's more than 2 cycles out of compliance with the NFPA, that they have to be, put out of service, and our bottles meet that criteria. Again, knowing that in 2000, I believe it was 13 or 14, Ms. O'Connell, I think, is in the audience. She suggested we do a 5-year, 10-year plan. And this was part of that plan to put the money in the sinking fund for this day.
Great, thank you.
Do I hear any other
Mr.
comments?
President, can we
Yep.
call the vote, please?
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose? All right. Motion passes. Motion to authorize the borough manager to proceed with the credit approval and documentation with Leasing to Inc. for $535,000 for either a 10-year period, 2.19%, which is $60,144.84 annually, or a 12-year period at 2.32% at $51,584.96 annually. All right.
You want me to comment on this?
Listen, we
So
got
moved.
Second.
Okay, so yeah, Russ, you can speak to this. Council, we need you guys to, guys and gals, please weigh in on which option here.
Yeah, and that's really, the motion go either way. It's either going to be a 10-year note or a 12-year note. In either event, the rates being quoted here, and I secured 5 different quotes from 5 different financial institutions. This is the lowest rate by far presented to us. And the difference in interest between the two over the length of each loan would be $18,500 approximately. So we're not talking a huge amount of money over a 10-year period or a 12-year period, like $1,800 a month or a year, maybe $2,000 at the most. So whether or not you want to go 8 or 10 is really the question and would be the motion. And this just allows me to start the process. And I'll have to get the solicitor involved and everything else down the road. But this just allows the start of the process to become efficient. And the amount, I'm sorry, and the amount is based on what Chief Crown alluded to, the sinking fund, the trade of the other truck at $162,000. You take the price of the new truck, the equipment needed for the new truck, and this SCBA equipment. You take that total, you debit out the 162 trade for the truck, the 127,000 we have in the sinking fund, and this $535,000 is the amount needed to take care of the whole thing.
And Russ, is this for the fire truck that was vetted on in the fall?
It's for the fire truck that's coming in at some point, and I'll bow to Mike on that.
Okay.
The answer is yes. We initiated the process last year.
We did. But could we expound on this a little bit, because we've been calling it a fire truck, and it is if I understand correctly, it's essentially a rescue unit that carries a lot of important gear. Chief Crown, could you, I know we've talked about this at multiple other meetings, but I would really like to have that in the record. If you could go into a little more detail about the importance of this piece of equipment, and also the fact that we do have a 10-year cycle, because most of the equipment that we have has somewhere near a 30-year life expectancy, and that every 10 years we have and should expect to be replacing a piece of equipment. And I have to say that from what I understand, Chief Crown and the fire department has done some good due diligence and made the suggestion to replace this unit, which is a little bit newer, and keep the older one that is functioning well. But I would like, if you could, Chief Crown, to talk about how important this piece of equipment is.
Sure, Ms. Perry. So this replaces a 2005 unit of rescue pumper. This is also a rescue pumper. We've had some issues with that 2005 rescue pumper. Right now, this will stage as a rescue unit. We'll have all kind of vehicle rescue tools. It'll have shoring for collapses, trench collapses, those types of things. For the basic first responder level, nowhere do we have the funds nor the capabilities of a full-fledged, rescue team ourselves. But this will get us into situations, and the situations we're in and out. If you have a major trench collapse or something like that, this will get us started while the other units are responding. Those types of things. It also is going to have the availability for all types of vehicle rescue operations, rope rescue operations. Every so many years, somebody goes over Backbone Road down towards the creek. We've had numerous rescues over, the hillside, the cliff where the 60-inch manhole cover was missing, those types of things. So this gets us into those opportunities to handle these types of incidents in the borough. And it's also, just so everybody's familiar, that we do provide these services by contract to Roslyn Farms and Thornburg Boroughs also.
Thank you.
And if we want to go on the 30-year replacement plan that Ms. Perry talked about, that was very, very long ago, 30s and 40s. Council at that time talked to the then fire chief, and through the process of years, every 10 years, a major piece of equipment gets replaced. So if you have 3 major pieces every 10 years, one gets replaced. Typically, they're 30 years old. Right now, we did have a 95 pumper that was performing admirably. We put a little bit of money in, about $15,000 into that last year in the budget. And we feel that we can get an extra 10 years out of that vehicle, maybe 8 to 10 years currently. So I believe we're in very good shape apparatus-wise in terms of the trucks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So to piggyback on what Chief Crown, Councilman Crown said, and we're looking at either a 10 or a 12-year note. The 10-year has lower interest, and it would be retired in 10 years, which would put us in a better shape to not have to have any overlapping payments. So it would be my recommendation. I don't know whether this is the appropriate time to make a decision about which one of these we were going to go for, but I would put my vote in for the 10 years.
So just to clarify, so this would be to essentially put in the application for the financing?
Yeah, but we have to pick which one.
This would allow us to start the documentation and the credit, all the credit application material that needs to be supplied to the lender. This would allow that to begin, yes.
Okay. So,
Mr. President, I also believe, you know, if we're going to follow that 10-year cycle, that probably the 10-year cycle would be better for us to do the 10-year note. So this year we're going to have an overlap going into next year. So I think it's better for us to stay at 10 years if we can handle it budgetarily.
okay.
Also, I'd like to jump in here with, you know, I'll concur with either one of these. The rates are so good that, you know, this is really low. So, you know, I think at the expense of the $1,800 or so, that it might be, you know, it's probably best to go to the 10-year note as well.
So does this motion need to be changed in order if we pick which one, or is it something that we're able to decide later on?
It should be amended with the motion in the seconder as to which option you all have chosen.
Okay, do we have the motioner and the seconder? Can I hear an amendment so we can move
Yeah, I
forward?
motion to amend the dialogue, the text of the motion to indicate the 10-year note at the interest rate written in the motion.
Does the seconder accept? I'm not sure. Was that Edward?
If it was me, I accept.
All right. Great.
I'd
right.
like to ask for the vote if we can.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose? All right. Motion passes. Thank you for the great conversation. Thank you, Manager McKibben, for the due diligence. All right, moving forward to motion to authorize the borough manager to enter into an agreement with Municipal Benefit Services to supply short-term disability policy for all full-time salaried employees.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Questions?
We had that dialogue last week. Maybe Manager Gibbons
Yep.
can explain that.
Are we looking for an explanation, Mr. President? Are we voting?
No, I
I'm
thought
sorry.
Russ, I was waiting for Russ to say something.
I just want to clarify, when I say all full-time salary employees, that's 3 people, so. that's all.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose? All right, motion passes. Motion to authorize the borough manager to enter into, pardon me. Motion to authorize the borough manager to work with Crafton Heritage Association to help list the war memorial at the borough building onto the American Legion database and allow a memorial medallion to be placed upon the same.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, I'm gonna just pop forward here. This is the letter that was sent on behalf of Crafton Heritage from the president of the organization, Charles R. Wilson. He wrote a very nice letter, as you can see here, and we're going to work with them to achieve the goal there. So thank you very much, everybody at Crafton Heritage. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose? All right, motion passes. Motion to advise Officer Pasqualino in writing pursuant to section 1186 of the Borough Code that he will not receive a permanent appointment to the Crafton Police Department, and his appointment as a police officer with the Krafenboro Police Department shall end immediately.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? And now I think
Point of order, Mr. President. This agenda item involves a personnel matter. Per the Borough Code, all discussion related to personnel matters should occur in executive session. But as such, Mr. President, I ask that you request that any members of council or the mayor that like to discuss this matter, I recommend that we briefly recess for the executive session. Mr. Solicitor, please correct me if I'm wrong.
So,
Personnel matters should be discussed in executive session. All comments about this may not be related to personnel, but to the extent they are about those issues, they should be discussed in executive session, yes.
okay, may I ask a couple of questions and we can vet whether they can be discussed in public?
yes.
Okay. First, I would like clarification about the Borough Code and the probation period, as how that is in the Borough Code. Are we allowed to speak to that?
That's legal advice from the solicitor. I'd prefer not. I've advised many of you over the phone when you've discussed, including Ms. Perry. I mean, we can read what 1186 says, which says at this point, council is permitted to make an up or down vote, and it leaves the officer without a right of appeal.
Okay, well, can we then, is it to say anything else? Mr. Solicitor.
It does say some other things, but for purposes of this evening's meeting, those are the most applicable provisions.
Okay, well, can I ask the president to either adjourn to an executive session, or I'd ask for an up or down vote?
I have a question. Question to vote. I have a question.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Is this council considering the recommendation of the chief of police and of the mayor, or are they going against the recommendation of the chief of police and the mayor? Are you against the chief of police and the mayor, or are you going with the recommendation of the chief and the mayor?
That's an issue for executive session.
Yeah, the motion's not about the going against the chief and the mayor. It's about the extension of the employment. So I think I'd like to ask the chair if we could go to an executive session.
Does everybody want to go to an executive session?
No, we don't need an executive session.
Okay, then then I guess we're moving the vote.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Okay. Are we permitted to say what the recommendation was? Or is that privileged information?
Solicitor Corbel.
It's a personnel record.
Okay, fine.
Mr. Vice President, did you call the vote?
I have not called the vote, but I will call the vote.
I have a question. Please.
Mr. President, I call the vote.
Okay.
Yeah, if we want to hear the mayor, I would just say we should just go to executive session and do it because I think.
All right, so we'll have the vote and then we'll talk to the mayor.
Okay. Make any.
Do it in public. Do it in public.
Okay. So call the vote. So you call the vote. Let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Mr. President, may I suggest the roll call?
Yeah, Mr. McKibben, a roll call vote.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Ayla,
Yes.
Mr. Amendola,
He's on mute. Can someone unmute him?
Oh, he was unmuted.
Okay.
Mr. Amendola,
My vote is no. You
Yes,
are
sir.
defunding.
Thank you.
Mr. Cross,
I vote in favor of the motion.
Mr. Crown,
No.
Mr. Lavasser,
Yes.
Ms. Perry,
No.
Mr. Saba.
Yes.
Mr. President, I have a 4-3 vote in favor of the motion.
All right, thank you. All right. Moving forward, motion to hire Mr. Douglas Sample as Assistant Borough Manager at a salary of $62,000 plus the normal borough benefit package effective August 16, 2020, and conditioned upon the execution of a memorandum of employment and a form acceptable to the solicitor and to the president of council.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any?
May I ask
Yep.
ask a question?
Yes.
My first question is, where did this come from? I do not recall any council decision about actually hiring an assistant manager, let alone a particular person. So I need to understand.
President, isn't that what we're doing tonight? For a point of order.
No, excuse me. My understanding is that the last I heard in public at a pub was that we would be looking to have a committee of the whole to replace the public works director. Now we have out here with no advertising, no vote to define a position and approve the position and the job description of assistant manager. There has been none of that. And you are coupling not only a new position that this council has not discussed in open meeting the need for nor voted for, and we also have not done any advertising. And instead, we are having a candidate pushed in front of us to hire with no vetting and no open
I'm
discussion.
going to call point of order, Mr. President. She's talking about the qualifications of a candidate, and I believe we're starting to cross over into personnel issues that must be discussed in executive session.
I'm talking about a job description that this council hasn't talked about. and has
Well, we
not.
can change it. Why don't we just talk about it now? You're on council and this is a council meeting.
You have a motion
Let's do
up.
that.
You have a motion up right now to hire a specific person. And what I am objecting to is that we have not approved the hiring, that we haven't approved a job description or the need for an assistant manager. And instead, what's being brought to the floor is to hire a specific person for a position that we haven't approved and we haven't advertised. We have 29 people, okay, 28 when we take Fred off of here, listening to us, watching us, and blowing up my phone with their objections to the way this is going. And so my concern is,
I have a point of order.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why are we in such a hurry to do this in a way that has zero transparency?
Mr. President, may I?
Yes, Mr. Saba. Yeah.
Am I allowed to mention that we had an executive session and every member of council had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Doug Sample, as well as to review the assistant borough manager role as well, and a description and give input?
Yes, and
yes, and
that is correct. However, I believe Ms. Perry's saying that the evolution, we initially went out for a PE advertisement and things have evolved quite a bit over the past 60 to 90 days. The need for an assistant to the manager, I'll let the manager speak to that. I mean, there is a clear need for professional assistance. However, I understand what Ms. Perry is trying to articulate here. So the thought process is that the manager needs help sooner than later, given all the various projects that we have put before him. So does anybody have anything to add?
may I continue?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, to speak to Mr. Saba's point, yes, you brought Mr. Sample in as our executive session was starting. We did not have a discussion in executive session prior to that interview about the need or anything. You released a description for an assistant manager along with his resume several hours before the executive session started. I expected to have an opportunity to discuss the need.
Mr. President, if I may, that executive session was 2 weeks ago. I had not received any phone calls from Ms. Perry discussing this.
Yeah, I'd like to ask for the floor here because I'm a bit confused because the allegations that I'm hearing are not like what I experienced. Like I'm sorry, Ms. Perry. I'm sorry. Can I ask the chair who has the floor?
Right. Okay. So, Mr. Kraus, you do have the floor. Ms. Perry, you can have the floor after Brad. Mr. Kraus ends his
Thank you. So I'll try to keep it short and brief. We did put out an advertisement for an in-house engineer, and we received some applicants who were not qualified, and we received one very qualified applicant. Then we had an executive session. We vetted this candidate, and now we have the discussion forum here because this is a transparent body. We can go ahead and discuss the details of the motion. We can amend the motion. We can make changes to the motion, and we can do that as a collective body. So I'm a bit confused as to like, when are we supposed to have some kind of transparent conversation, like on the phone before an executive session, which that in and of itself is not very transparent. So we put out a job. We asked people to give us their resumes. They did that. We all saw them. We got the best resume, which was this one. We then brought Doug in. We vetted Doug. We spoke with him for over an hour and a half on Thursday night. We left, and now it's time to debate the merits of the motion on the table. I'm not understanding how this process didn't work along the each step of the process worked as exactly as it was supposed to be intended. So this is
No
why I'm very
transparency.
confused.
There's no transparency, is what it is.
Okay.
So, may I address?
Yes, Ms. Perry.
All right. As you said, Brad, we had approved in open meeting by motion to advertise for an engineer. That is the last thing that we've done in public. Now, the other thing you say we advertised for a PE. And I do not believe that this candidate that we have a motion, and if you apply for the job, what happened, remember, we committed to a committee of the whole, and instead of having a committee of the whole, we had presented to us just a few hours before that executive session with no opportunity to talk about it. And I will tell you, again, we have an agenda that was put out just a few hours before this meeting. I had no expectation that this would be rammed down our throats and forced on us without having enough opportunity to talk about the merits of an assistant manager. And I'm not necessarily saying that we shouldn't have one, but we should have talked about it. We should have done the same thing with that job description as we did with the PE. And so that the community would understand, the community would understand what we were doing, what we were up to, and why. And that we could have heard from our manager the merits.
So we have the opportunity to do that. That's my point of this is, I mean, I understand the implication, and I've been on both sides of this implication. So let's have that discussion instead of attacking each other.
Mr. President, if I may.
We have a transparent.
Mr. President, if I may.
There's no transparency.
Mr. President, if I may.
Okay. Mr. Saba, then Mr. Amendola, then Mrs. Perry.
I do believe we had an executive session prior to the last meeting to meet Mr. Doug Sample. I had reached out to Ms. Perry, I believe it was a Thursday, to let her know that we identified Mr. Doug Sample and that there will be a job description coming out over the weekend, and as well as opportunity for her to have input into the questioning of this candidate as well. And we had worked on a job description that was sent to her prior. I am sorry that it wasn't sent 4 days. Ms. Perry, please do not cut me off. I didn't cut you off. I did not wait till last minute to send it out. Borough Council is not my only job. This is not my only responsibilities. I worked tirelessly over the weekend to get a proper questioning form put together to give council an opportunity to have input. At no time, if you're saying we weren't transparent, we could essentially have kept this silent until today and just voted on it and not have looped in all of council over 2 weeks ago.
Mr. President, I would like to address Mr. Saba. You did tell me that you were working on the job description, but when we spoke on the Thursday before that executive session, you led me to believe you never said that we were changing the job description to assistant manager. You left me with the explicit impression that we were still working on a replacement for the public works supervisor.
Ms. Perry, how would we work on the replacement for public works supervisor when his termination wasn't effective until that Monday after our conversation? At that moment, I was looking at qualified candidates that we had in front of us, and I wanted to make you aware of a qualified candidate. Yes, Mr. Doug Sample had he warranted a conversation, and that's when you were everybody in council was brought up to speed and given an opportunity to meet him.
Excuse me, I'm still, and I will say this one last time and I will be done. this council should have brought the job description first. I mean, this town is not on fire. We had an update from our manager that said the supervisor was stepping up and things were going well. He said that in his report that he sent to us over the weekend. So I don't understand why the fire and why we can't do this correctly and why we can't first discuss and vote on the need for an assistant director, and that we actually do a search for an assistant director, and that we have enough time to that.
Mr. President, if I may, I believe.
How did we hire RJ, Coletta, or Russ? I mean, I take umbrage to the implications. I mean, we constantly are on the other side of a tongue lashing about how we have to do things a certain way. And, you know, let me finish. So, you know, I don't recall a very transparent, you know, process in those hires. I don't recall, I wasn't here when Mr. Kazarowski was hired, but I bet that there wasn't very much transparency in that hire either. So if you would like to debate the merits of calling him an in-house engineer or director of public works or municipal engineer, whatever you want to call him, we should be doing that. Instead, we are debasing this body in front of the very public in which we constantly espouse that we serve their interests. So let's have a debate, Coletta, about the issues in the motion, like we learned at Good Government School. And then let's talk about, maybe we do want to amend it. You know, we haven't even got there yet because you have this implication that we are just going to force things down your throat when you were looped into this process from the beginning. So I would ask you if you could indulge me in my small d democratic instinct to let's actually talk about the motion and not waste the 39 participants who are watching this charade's time tonight. Can we agree to do that?
I've had my say. I have had my say, and I think I've made my point very clear.
Yes, I understand your point, but you are part of a democratic process and you have a voice. You can speak your voice in a productive way. So I would think that we should be doing a good job of
Mr. President, I'd like to call the vote.
do that.
Mr. President, I'd like to call the vote.
Before we do that, does anybody, I guess we're calling the vote.
Well, we haven't even spoken in favor of the motion or again. I mean, this is to the point. Like, if Coletta, and I respect Coletta's point of view, and so I think we should indulge that point of view, and we should do our due diligence here, and we should have that debate.
I just want to hear from the manager. Do we need help?
May I say something here? May I say something?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Just about the position, not about the candidate.
May I say something here?
Yes, please.
These decisions are being made behind closed doors. There are no transparencies. You did the same thing when you brought Councilman Crown onto the council. You did it all behind closed doors, and now you're doing it with this hiring. You're doing firing and hiring and lots of wasteful spending. People and the citizens need to know that. You're not representing the citizens as you're supposed to. They
Yes.
don't want to defund the police department. They don't want to bring
Correct.
on other employees at your well, let's just do this. And they're going to have to swallow it because the 4 or the 5 of you are sticking together like a bunch of little puppies.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thanks for the comment.
Like
Thanks
the
for
floor
letting
as
me
well.
speak.
Thank you. Mr. Crown?
Yeah, I take umbrage to Mr. Amendola. We all know, we've talked to Manager McKibbins, and we do know now the Public Works supervisor is no longer there, and we need help. Doug Sample comes to the borough with a lot of work experience. I believe him and Mr. McKibbins have had conversations, and instead of understanding what Mr. Amendola is saying is throwing money out the window, when we have good certified people like Mr. McKibbins and possibly Mr. Sample, that's actually going to be a benefit for this community. They can watch. They're two very, very skilled managers.
Thank you.
It's actually going to
I
be a
have
benefit.
a comment as well, and I will try to keep it brief. I don't think it's going to be something that we can hide in executive session because it was in the public record. There are many people in this community who may remember that Doug Sample actually did work here. And so this is not someone who's an outsider to Crafton, who doesn't know how to work with different factions and different viewpoints and ideologies inside of this borough that we love so fiercely and we like to call our home. So, you know, this is a gentleman who has a wide breadth of knowledge and started in Crafton and is looking for a place. I think there was conveyed to us that there was quite some affinity for Krafenboro here, and he was excited about the comprehensive plan, about the work we've already done to bring some projects online. And as someone who has handled projects and handled a massive budget and a large council in Ross, and you know, there was a match there that we found that this person could complement and work collaboratively with Mr. McKibben. I don't want to speak for Mr. McKibben, but I will say this, you know, they will work, I would assume, kind of like a co-equal. You know, I always use a baseball analogy, and I apologize to those out there if I bore you with this, but it's really trendy right now to have general managers and bring in other general managers to be complementary to your main general manager. It's a trend in a lot of organizations to bring in as much brain power as you can. CEOs go to work for other CEOs in large companies all of the time. And they don't say, well, he was a CEO somewhere else. We can't possibly hire this person. He or she can't possibly work for us because he or she is a CEO. So I reject those statements soundly on their face. And I think that, you know, we should be bringing in more people who are familiar with Crafton, who have the right knowledge base, who have the right skill set. And, you know, quite frankly, this was I get you, Coletta. You know, we can, if you want to amend the motion to change his title to whatever you feel more comfortable with, we can do that tonight. But I think that we all know that Mr. Sample has already been in this community as an asset and was widely seen as someone who was, you know, people were sad to see him go, from what I've been told. And I thought we would be more of the tact if we were bringing back an old friend who can work here and be part of the team and work to help myself and you and, you know, all the members of council, all the members of administration. That's where I thought we were going with this. So, I mean, to say that we have taken this and made this monster out of the process, that was not my experience in this process.
Well, that, you know, you can spin it any way you want. You guys are doing stuff behind closed doors. You're doing a lot of wasteful
Mr. President,
spending.
I had requested
People
the
in the
floor
community.
prior to Mr. Krause.
I got the floor here right now.
I had requested the floor prior to Mr. Krause.
Okay, Mr. Alo.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I just want to talk about the procedural issues that we are looking at right now. First and foremost, whenever I was a resident, we saw council try to take an approach for a search for a borough manager. One was selected after that process, but eventually that borough manager did not take the position, and behind closed doors, members of council put forth a new borough manager she eventually became borough manager. Then, while also a resident, council at that time, I believe under the leadership of Councilwoman Perry and Councilman Amendola, had put forth a vote in June that had not been on the agenda that day, that came out of nowhere. So these supposed closed door backroom dealings, they are kind of precedent. This isn't new to our council. It wasn't new to last year's council. It wasn't new to the one before that. And I believe even so much so as our current borough manager, I don't believe there was publication for that position. So it's not that we publish every single position. And that's just all I have to say about that procedural. And I believe the vote was called a while back.
Okay. All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All that oppose?
Opposed.
Opposed. I vote no.
Okay, thank you. All right. All that oppose?
No, I vote no.
Okay, thank you. All right. All that oppose?
No, I vote no.
Okay, thank you. All right, motion passes.
Was that, it should be a roll call vote.
No, there was.
Yeah, I think, yes, it should be a roll call
Mr.
vote.
President, you may call the vote in any manner you see fit.
So we'll move on. All right, thank you.
Um,
Discussion items.
Yeah, the mayor would like to ask something.
Yes.
Okay, for the past 15 minutes, people have been sending me questions on the Zoom, and I am attempting to answer their questions, but I keep getting cut out. Is that Zoom or is somebody cutting me out that I can't answer the citizens' questions that they're typing to me?
Well, first of all, Mr. Mayor, this is not a Q&A
Censorship,
forum.
it's censorship.
No, these people have a right to speak at the beginning of the meeting in an organized fashion.
Well, hold on.
Not to do a Q&A with us behind the scenes. That's the very definition of anti-transparency.
Hold on here. But with regards to what you're saying, no, Ed and I are not controlling that. I can only see you all and the agenda, all right? That's why we have a co-host. And I don't know, I don't believe, Ed, are you doing anything with the technology to control anything that anybody in the Q&A section is doing?
Well, I turned off the anonymous function so no one could post anonymously to preclude trolling.
Okay.
I did mess with the settings to prevent anonymous questions. So that may be what we're...
Right, and then we typically don't have a Q&A thing turned on, right? Because Q&A
No, it shouldn't be turned on because...
Right, chat. This isn't supposed to be Facebook Live where you're chatting and sending emojis.
Right. And I would ask, I'll white flag here, Mr. Bloom. So, to be honest with you, there is a setting that's it's not one that we did nefariously. So let's not jump to a conclusion. But when you answer an open question, it automatically moves it to a closed question as if you had answered it. So when you are answering them, they do disappear into another window, and that's where they are going. So right now, someone asked a question, we did not, someone answered it, and now it's being it's listing itself as dismissed, and that's to answer your question.
I have a comment.
Yes, Mr. Amandel.
We need to get back to regular meetings. If we have to hold them outside in the park on the stage, we should be doing that. Other communities are having sit-down meetings in their borough building. We're not stopped by law from having meetings in the borough building or in the park. We need to get off this Zoom. Listen to what I'm saying to you. We need to get off this Zoom thing. You guys are controlling everything with this censorship, and it's not right. The people of the community need to know that.
Mr. President.
Mr.
President. Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Do I still have the floor? Do I still have the floor?
Yeah, please continue.
Okay. We need to have a regular meeting. Go back to regular meetings. There's nothing that says that we are not allowed to, except that you guys can control everything behind your computers.
So thank you very much. So I will just give everybody a history of where we are under the governor's declaration.
We don't need to spin on it now. We don't need to spin. Don't get us get us back to regular meetings.
Pardon me. I have the floor. I am the chair of the meeting. I try to, again, give everybody their opportunity to chat here. So to address your concern, if we had all these people in the room, these people would have not been able to be in the room. So the technology is actually allowing more people to attend the meetings, which is wonderful. So that is wonderful.
They're going to have Harvard online, dude. Like everything is.
So can I please finish? I allow everybody this entire meeting to speak. I'm going to speak. So, Mr. Amendola, months ago, you were very, very concerned about the pandemic. And at that point, we had to meet in person, and you were very upset about meeting in person. Now we are at the height of the pandemic in Allegheny County, and you are asking us to meet in person, which we just addressed that the school can't even meet in person. So what kind of message are we saying in Allegheny County with 1.2 million people, with 6,200 plus people, that, you know, we're going to have meetings online when Fred wants to have them, but when he doesn't want to have them, we're not going to have them because you're uncomfortable with the medium. I understand that there's potential accessibility issues. However, with regards to the overall technology, it is working out very well for thousands of communities across the United States of America, and we have to do our part to slow the spread to ensure that things such as a crisis doesn't outbreak in our own Crafton Towers, which is why we don't have the senior dinners right now. And I've received numerous comments about not having senior dinners, but we are doing everything we can to protect health and safety in this community, including yours. So I understand that you would like to have meetings in person. However, under the current advisories, we would not be able to have 39 plus people in the room. And to your point, we could have a meeting out at the stage. However, this evening, the meeting most likely would have been canceled because a storm ripped through during our meeting time. So we have to do the best we can during this crisis, which is the pandemic. Our federal, state, and local officials have a lot on our plates, and I think we've all been doing an admirable job working together and trying to address the overall concerns. We are going to time have disagreements, and I understand your desire to get back in the room because, as you know, early on, I did not want to abdicate our responsibility to meet in person, but given the conditions of the pandemic, we have to use the technology that's best availed to us at this time. And I think a majority of council would like to remain online. Again, if council would like to meet in person, I would meet in person. However, I don't know who has an underlying health condition. I know the solicitor has vocalized his concerns. Numerous other members of council have. So that is why we are in the current format of the Zoom meeting. So hopefully everybody can enjoy coming to the meetings online and have this kind of interaction. And maybe in the future, we can continue with figuring out how to digitally enable people who are homebound, who are afraid to come to the council chambers and give their opinions on agenda items or other issues that have been brought to their attention and bringing to our attention. So again, thank you everybody for allowing me to belabor the point, but I just want to, on the record, say, Mr. Amendola, you started out saying you did not want to have meetings and you wanted us to shut down the borough building. We did all those things. We even sent everybody home. We've taken this situation very, very seriously, and we are looking to County Executive Fitzgerald, the health department, and the governor's office in the department, the health department, to provide us with guidance moving forward. So if people would like to move back to figure out how to have meetings in person and potentially set up another format, I'm open to receiving ideas, and we can deliberate them with the manager and figure out what is reasonable and safe. And I don't believe meetings are going to go back to normal by Christmas. I don't believe that. I don't know if anybody believes that right now. Our schools, our economy are in crisis. Right, Mayor? There's a crisis out there. And we are trying our best to navigate through these unprecedented times. So I don't know what we would do during November and December if we're going to meet outside, if we're going to have tents, whatever the ideas may be. We'll talk about it if we all need to be in the room again. But right now, this is what we have, and I'm looking to your ideas moving forward. So I'm going to stop beating this subject there. So I'm going to move forward with community announcements. The community center will remain
May
closed.
I
No,
answer to that?
no.
I-
Community center will remain closed until further notice, and all activities and bookings canceled indefinitely. The borough office will remain closed to the public. However, staff is available during normal business hours and can be reached via telephone or email. There is a drop box in the rear of the building. For any written correspondence, any changes to this action will be posted on the borough website and Savvy Citizen. The next bullet item, there will be a Crafton Ingram blood drive and antibody testing at the Craftonian Hall next to Shepner McDermott Funeral Home on Wednesday, July 29th from noon until 6 p.m. Appointments are strongly recommended and can be made by calling 412-209-7000. The next announcement. Krafenboro will be having its annual fireworks display on Sunday, September 6th, which is a Sunday, at 8:15 p.m. So, Manager McKibben, thank you for putting that together. Thank you, Rec Board, for working on that. Thank you. Next item, the Allegheny County Health Department will be in the borough from July 31st through August 10th, baiting with packets an anti-rabies vaccine specifically targeting raccoons in and around the park areas. The ketchup-sized package should be avoided, and all residents are strongly advised to not let their pets run off leash for at least another additional week. For more information, it can be found at the achd.net/raccoon or on the Crafton, Savvy Citizen, and Borough websites. So those are the bulk of the announcements. Charisma and Catherine are doing a great job updating Savvy Citizen, and I really appreciate the manager's due diligence. He's been receiving some calls about various issues, and he is being very responsive. So again, Manager McKibben, do you have anything to say before we close this meeting?
No, Mr. President, I do not.
Thank you. Again, thank you to all the staff and everybody that's pulling together as we work through this national crisis and trying to minimize the impact of the pandemic. And again, it starts with each and every one of us. So thank you very much. I'm moving to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Oy, okay, that's crazy.